How is everybody after that inspirational speech by both Secretary of State, Secretary Albright and Secretary Clinton? I missed the opportunity that there was no talk about Iraq, but no problem. I will post my questions later on for Secretary Clinton. I am so honored, as I mentioned yesterday also, I'm so honored and privileged to be here with this wonderful group. And it's also very touching thing for me, because when I browsed the program and all the themes and what we are going to do over the next 10 days, it struck me so many points that, first of all, this is a group of women from my own region. I've been in so many conferences and places, and I almost was the only person from Iraq or the only person from Kurdistan. And in order to try to talk about the challenges in my region or my country, it needed lots of energy and explanations. But this time, with this wonderful group, very accomplished women from the Mania region and elsewhere also, I think we have a bonding already started, even just by the biographies themselves, because we are all facing challenges in our countries, and we are all having strong ambitions and a very strong determination to get into the right place for us as a woman, and also to give the lead for generations to come. The second point that really attracted my attention and the program here is that, my gosh, somebody did his homework very well. I mean, the themes, the topics they are talking about, how you build a political coalition, how you talk about a family law, how you talk to your peers, how you have over or intra-parties discussions about only women issues. That are really very important subjects for us in our region and in our country. For example, in Iraq, I would borrow the term from Secretary Clinton, we are still in a messy democracy. We are not a transitional country, supposedly anymore, but we are in a messy democracy that we need guidance, we need the know-how, we need expertise, we need also sharing our experience with other transitional countries, as long as with countries who are so progressed like the United States. The other important point that I found at the program, and it was for me very near to my heart because I'm from Kurdistan region, there is a mentioning of Kurdistan, and it's very hard for me in so many places and occasions to say where I am from. Who Kurdistan, where Iraq? I have to explain. We are like 100 kilometers to the north of Baghdad. We are Kurd. We are also proud to be Iraqi, but we are Kurd. We are from Kurdistan region. So it was very striking for me to read exactly about a fatwa in Kurdistan region about a very sensitive issue in our society, actually. So for me, I mean, the people who got this program together, they really studied what's going on in our regions, in our own countries, and to somehow they knew what's in our mind, what we want to do, what are the challenges, what we are facing. So to be able to be in such a program with people who understand us, which is rarely can happen in such international events and venues, that I feel it's the most important, and it's a big plus, and it's an added value for the program, because once you come with the people who already understand you to some extent, that makes your makes your journey easier in terms of digesting what we are going to learn within the next 2 weeks, and also it will make stronger network later on because the bonding is already there. I worked in public sector. Definitely, I worked in Iraq the whole of my life. I worked in public sector as auditor at central bank. I worked in private sector. I worked in non-profit sector with USAID program, one of the best programs, the Community Action Program. And I was so proud to be the only local that was running all the programs for a US NGOs, international NGOs called Counterpart International in 2004 and in 2005, and I was running the ICAP program in Fallujah. So that was really very interesting experience for me. I'm Kurd, I'm woman, I'm from Baghdad, I'm kind of, to the people in Fallujah and Ramadi, I'm kind of secular, so you have to lead a group of engineers and men to implement such important program. That's the community action program. Later, after the nonprofit, I went to have my second master, because my first master is English linguistics from Baghdad University. My second master, and thanks to the State Department's wonderful program, Fulbright scholarship, I got my Fulbright. I did my master at the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy, which I'm so proud, because I shared this with Mrs. Farah, which I'm so proud to be an alumni from Fletcher. So this journey changing from business to nonprofit to public, to be again at my final position nowadays as senior advisor for Kurdistan Parliament, Kurdistan region, Iraq, and before I was also senior advisor at the Iraqi Parliament. This whole journey taught me something very important about Iraq as a country. And I would like, everybody to know us from a close. We are not only the country with the famous dictator Saddam Hussein. We are a country of civilization. We are a country of a great potential, like women and education. Still in the time of hard and strong embargo, during the dictatorships and later during the war, the number one important thing in all our families were education. If you look at the Fulbright groups coming from Iraq to the United States, you see more than 50% are women. So we have this potential, we have this inspiration, and I'm looking forward to have a better democracy in Iraq, a better democracy in Kurdistan region, and definitely by default, it will spill over in the whole of Middle East. I feel also so honored and privileged to be given the opportunity to introduce Judge Gertner. I hope I got her name in the right way. When I read her biography, I saw in every single stage or phase in her life, she was awarded for something. So that means she did not only serve, but she served with excellency. And that's what I would like to hear from her. What brought her to the public service? What this edge, what this added value in her service that always been awarded, like year by year in every single position that she took. Thank you so much for listening to me, and please, you have the floor.
The notion of following Hillary Clinton, Secretary Albright, and now, it's very difficult to follow all these people. But I thought Rangada asked me to describe why I went into public service. And I had originally thought I would say one thing, but after listening to Secretary Clinton, I decided to tell the story a different way. So there was a moment in 1970 at the Yale Law School when two women out of a class of 20 were sitting on the floor, drinking tea and talking politics. One with long, dirty blonde hair, and as they like to describe, big glasses, was Hillary Clinton, and the other with long, dirty brown hair, literally, was me. We were just 20 women at the Yale Law School in the years 1968 to 71. And though nothing prepared me in my life for the kind of career I had, although it doesn't begin to compare with the kind of career she had, some of the ingredients were laid down that evening drinking tea. We talked about wanting to be different than our mothers and our fathers. We talked about having had actually no role models for what we wanted to be at the time. We talked about no one taught a woman how to be a leader, My family, Hillary actually came from a middle-class family in Chicago. I came from a lower-class family in New York. And the major message I got was to marry and have children. My father made a mistake, however, in that regard, by sending me to Barnard College. As I like to describe, when we went into Barnard College, as sort of a version of what Hillary was saying, we went in with a flip. I don't know whether anyone remembers these perfect hairdos that you slept on rollers for. You slept on, and you walked around all day just to keep it up. There was a posture contest where we were supposed to make sure that we knew how to stand up straight. There was a course on how to get in and out of a taxi cab so no one could look up your dress. And this was the Barnard that I entered. By the time I left, I had read the major feminist treatises. I didn't much care what my hair was doing. Still don't, actually. I didn't much care about getting in and out of taxi cabs. I cared about marching. Marching against the war, marching for civil rights, marching for women's rights. And when I came to Yale and met Hillary, we were on the cusp of the same kind of discussion. What will we do, not to be in public service necessarily, but what shall we do to make a contribution? In fact, for me, the contribution was different than for her. I wanted to get my hands dirty. I wanted to be in courtrooms and represent the dispossessed and represent the people who were reviled by others. I wanted to go into court and represent people who were accused of crime and represent women who were suing for civil rights and employment discrimination. I wanted to do something that my mother had not remotely prepared me to do, and Barnard sort of did, and Yale very much did. Hillary went to Washington and I went to Boston, and I carved out for the next 24 years a career of being a civil rights lawyer and being a criminal defense lawyer. I represented every manner and means of civil rights claim at a time when no one else was doing it. I was the only woman in a courtroom. If you wanted to have a bad day, if you wanted to go into court and hope that no one noticed you, as soon as you opened your mouth and this high-pitched voice came out, everyone turned around. I had to deal with lawyers and men and judges, and they were all men, who would say things to me that I'm sure many of you have heard and still hear. Judge Smith, I have a woman coming into courtroom with me. Do you mind if she sits with me? To which the judge responds, I thought one woman in a courtroom was bad enough. Once when representing a gay woman, and I came in with a rather large dress, the prosecutor said, how dare you look pregnant when you're representing that lesbian? It went on and on and on. But that was part of what fueled my resolve to stay. What fueled my resolve was the notion that there was exactly because there were no women in the courtroom, exactly because so many of the women I represented needed my help. After 24 years, Hillary and I had been in touch to some degree over that period of time, she in Arkansas, me here. But I have to admit we were not as close as we once were because I didn't approve of her husband. Let me repeat that. I did not approve of her husband. Not a good thing to do, and so she went off to Arkansas and I stayed here. But when Bill Clinton decided to run for president, Hillary called me up and we began to speak all over again. He becomes president and suddenly I was asked to change my career. Suddenly I was asked to apply for a judgeship. It was an improbable question, an improbable request. It was rare for someone who had had a civil rights and criminal defense career as high profile as mine to be asked to be a judge. But I decided at that moment that I wanted a different challenge and that I wanted to use these skills now for a different set of services than advocacy. When I was sworn in as a judge, people said, how can a ferocious advocate become a judge? And I said, everyone has to move to neutral. Everyone has to struggle with their attitudes and beliefs, and I was no different. For 17 years, I served as a judge, and I spoke through my opinions instead of in front of the press. I spoke through my opinions. I spoke through the woman who came to my court after having been raped by a prison guard. Prison guard claimed that it was consensual, that she had consented to this relationship. And sure enough, when I looked across the country, I found cases in which these cases were dismissed. How could this be a constitutional violation if, after all, she consented? I brought to the table my 24 years of representing women and representing prisoners, and I understood as a judge that whether this was consent was an open question, hardly clear, more likely not. And I refused to dismiss this woman's case. She went to trial, and a jury awarded her damages for her pain. So while I was a neutral and a judge, I brought to that courtroom this context, the context of having known what it was like to be discriminated against personally, to having known what it was like to represent people who had been discriminated against. And I was good at it. Last September, when I reached an age that I don't even want to share with you, I decided to retire from the bench. Someone asked me if I planned to be a judge for the rest of my life. I shuddered and said, the rest of my life? And frankly, I wanted a different voice. I wanted to speak to groups like this. I wanted to speak more critically about what I had seen than I was able to before. In fact, after listening to the stories this morning, what I want to do now is to simply do this, and that is to join my voice and with your voices, to use my efforts at your behest, and to the extent that we in this country can do to help the women in this room and in your countries in any way I can. Thank you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for Wellesley College for giving us this great chance to meet you all today. A special thank for all the workers in Women in Public Service program and to the all speakers attend in this program who are ready for sharing us their wisdom and experience with us. I would like to introduce myself to you. I am Lama'an Sabri from Iraq. I am mechanical engineer with MSc degree. I am working in Ministry of Electricity. I was selected to be member in the General Inspector Office to be responsible of the EPC committee. Although I was fighting with the problem of gender in my community, work and family, I was a very successful woman in all the fields. That led me to win with the position of the chief of the EPC committee. After the events of 2003 in Iraq, and according to the bad situation of my country, at that time, I realized that I am very passionate in politics in my country, executing and implementing the quota in the governmental elections, and my suffering of the gender problem encourages me a lot to participate in politics in Iraq. I was selected as a General Secretariat member and responsible of the Department of Women Affairs to all governorates in Iraq of my party. And my efforts in this field was appreciated and managed to get the position of the spokesman of the party. I was succeeded in getting the post of Assistant Secretary General in the party in 2010. That supported me to push myself as a candidate in the parliamentary elections in Iraq in 2010. And I've got 5,755 popular votes. Thank you. Thank you. But unfortunately, I didn't succeed in these elections because a lot of reasons. One of them, that the elections was false and not transparent. I was very disappointed at that time. But later, I forced myself to continue in the politics field, even if I didn't win. I discovered that serving my community and my people is the main goal in my life. And I had to work harder and change my plan. That encourages me to follow the civil community activities in serving public and concentrating in many aims in women needs especially. Now I am planning to establish a new NGO for serving women and fighting gender problem, supporting weak women in very special fields, such as prisons. This meeting gave me a great chance to know and meet one of our very important speakers today, who is a recent Nobel Peace Prize nominee and the First Minister for Women's Affairs and current leader of the opposition in Cambodia, Ms. Sochua. I would like to ask her how you are evaluating your faults and success in your journey in life, politics, and elections. Your answer will reach my thoughts and aims a lot in my future life. Finally, I feel very grateful for you all and for your interest and cooperation. Please welcome Sochua. Thank you.
We are women, and we made our decision to serve the public. And we made plans, and we will make a career, a profession, out of serving the public. But, you know, there are other public servants, young politicians, who did not make that decision. It came as an accident. I would call them the accidental public servants or politicians. And those are the women that I would like to speak about, because that is what I do as a member of parliament from the opposition party, former Minister for Women's Affairs, and now fighting democracy, and very much spending most of my time mentoring, pushing, promoting the voices from the grassroots. I think these accidental public servants deserve to be honored, deserve to be put on front line, because they are always on front line. And these are women who make no money, ask for no money, but fight for one thing, fight for justice and fight for change. And you know, and we all know how they have to sacrifice. When there's no childcare, when the husband beat them up when they go home, because how dare they leave the homes to go to a public meeting, to speak in public. How dare them? They leave the family and bring shame. But they endure. I think we should not forget these women who are at the grassroots, who are actually on front line, who have no computers, no laptops, no phones, no nothing, not even a bicycle. But they made it. They continue to make it. And these are the women I work with. I will speak more about it tonight. So I want to just speak more about what I learned and the struggle in building democracy. Secretary Clinton told us, we build our own democracy. Of course, democracy is a global word, but it's tailored by us. I'm not going to ask America to tell us how to build our democracy, because it will be made in USA, and it has to be made in Cambodia. However, as I was on stage with Secretary Clinton, I did ask the woman that we all look up for, the woman who told us, who tells us today, she just told us, and she continues to tell us that women's rights are human rights, and human rights are women's rights. And that's why in 1995, after I heard her, I joined politics in Beijing. But today I said, Madam Secretary, tomorrow you will be meeting the Foreign Minister of Cambodia. And America continue to give $3 million to support defense, Ministry of Defense in Cambodia. And they are the soldiers who kill the women, shoot the women, our women, because the land, 3 million hectares of land in Cambodia are given to tycoons, to companies. And Madam Secretary, please suspend military aid to Cambodia at this moment. She said she'll try, she'll work on it. When we work, we have to work so that that silence is no longer tolerated. We have to work so that the voice, after the silence, you help our women have a voice so that they don't remain as victims of domestic violence, victims of human trafficking, victims all the time. We have to make these voices vital. So they are not just voices, but they are power. I end here. So very to my head always, although I am quite a troublemaker in my country, I took the Prime Minister to court. To me, our business is to serve the women so that we can bring them out of silence, give them voices, vital voices, and give them the power to change. Thank you.
Good afternoon, beautiful ladies. I really appreciate this particular moment that I've been honored with, that I may be able to give a vote of thanks on behalf of my fellow delegates and the community and the family that we have now become, the family of the Women in Public Service Project Institute. My name is Lindy Wafula. I love to tell about my age because the journey that I have made to be where I am today gives me courage to know that I've been born with the gift of feminine leadership, And it is that gift of feminine leadership that I want to use to make room for me and for all other women that I come across who say, I know I have been born to make a difference for my community, for my country, and for the world at whole. I am 35 years old. At the age of 14, I lost my parents to HIV and AIDS back home in Kenya. In 2010, I ran for the first time for the seat of a member of parliament in my small community of 270,000 voters in Nairobi, Kenya. I keep on saying that for us in Kenya, the problem is not about calling people to vote because we get 80%, 90% voter turnout. For us in Kenya today, the challenge, like for many other countries that are represented here, by the 49 of us who have come from diverse communities, the challenge is to have women coming out boldly to say, we know we have what it takes, and we are going to go to the front lines. We will join those who have been before us, and we will continue to pursue until we see that women are making an impact in decision-making and in every aspect of leadership that concerns our lives. That is what gives me a lot of joy, that today, even as I'm preparing to run for election again in Kenya for the second time, I lost in 2010, but my spirit is not down. My spirit is up because I know a woman can fall 7 times, but that doesn't say that she is a failure. She has just learned lessons to do things better. It is with that inspiration in me and looking into the journeys of all the other women that we've listened to the whole of this morning that gives me the inspiration to stand before you on behalf of all my colleagues, the delegates who have come from different parts of the world, the 49 of us, to say we are very, very grateful to have been given an opportunity that will allow us to make a new dispensation in our countries and will allow us to be voices, will allow us to make an impact of leadership, and will allow us to live a better future for the generations to come. As I was looking at the past of what our journeys have been, looking at the history of the United States and our own histories in our own special ways, I remembered that when Secretary Hillary Clinton, on that day, she stood on the podium and endorsed Barack Obama, a son who in Kenya we are so proud of. I remember the words that have continued to remain in my heart. She said this: "No way, no how, no John McCain." And I looked at her and I said, if this were a woman or a candidate in Africa, we will be hearing about bullets and bombs the following day. But because it is a woman who knows that there is better ways of making sure that our abilities are recognized, she made me realize that I have a responsibility of making sure that the cracks she has made on the glass ceiling, we the 49 delegates that have been called here, are going to be a thunderous power that will bring the ceiling down. And therefore, in her absence, I want to thank her for being a role model, for going before us, for making the steps, for making sure that she is able to show us where the potholes are so that we can know better how to make our campaigns. She went before us and she was ridiculed and called names so that for us, young women can be able to find liberty when we stand on those platforms of campaign. She went before us so that we can be able to be called a women of power because one of us dared to dream, just like she said, she dared to dream. I am so very grateful, therefore, for the vision that she has put together for us, women who have come from the grassroots, to be able to come together and be empowered, be educated, and engage with women who have such great experience to make us a better people and better leaders for our communities. Words cannot express enough the gratitude that I have in my heart for her, and I believe that is the same for all the 49 delegates who have come from afar. I want to thank the team that has put together the program of making us come here. I want to appreciate particularly President Kim Bottomley of the Wellesley College. Thank you for allowing us a space that we can sit, we can laugh, we can celebrate our beauty, but above all, we can also notice that we are women who are beautiful with brains. Many of the times that we go to the campaigns, or many of the times that we are in public service, and all that people see are beautiful women. But I keep on saying that behind every beauty of a woman who stands in public office, there is a brain and a great power that is ready to make change for the better and to advocate for social justice, for the equality of everyone who lives in our communities. We appreciate the space that has been created for us here. It has allowed us to connect. It has allowed us to join our effort. It has allowed us to put our minds together. And it has allowed us, for sure, to look into the future and say, what are we going to do tomorrow? Thank you very much, Wellesley College, President, and all the staff who put this together for us. I want to appreciate also, on behalf of all the delegates, the planning committee chaired by Madam Kavita Ramdas, who thought about us, who put that curriculum together, who made sure that you can be able to reach out and find mentors for us, who made sure that you will be able to look into spaces of the other 6 sisters of the colleges of women, that we can be able, not only ourselves, but many other young women from different parts of the world can be able to be reached out to and be empowered for a better future. I want also to give a very special thanks to our director of the Women in Public Service Project Institute, Wellesley College, Madam Rangita, for the great work that she has done. She has served us tirelessly. I remember for a couple of days, I received an email asking me, have you already been prepared to come to the United States? Do you have your visa? Have you been able to get whatever you need to make your preparation or your journey here amicable? And I sent back an email, not knowing that it was going to the woman who has been putting things together for us. Many of the times that when organizations are being put together, you will always have delegated members at the lower cadre who will answer emails. I was very honored to have been answered by her, saying, Lindy, for sure, we just want to make sure that each one of us will get here because we believe that you have such powerful messages and such powerful experiences that if we can all put together as a people who come from different communities and with such diverse experiences, we will be able to celebrate our diversity and making sure that women can rise up the ladder. Reading that email made me humbled because I realized just how important in our time now we need to make sure that women are mobilized to co-work together. If you come from a country like mine, maybe here, maybe elsewhere where the 49 delegates come from, we are always told women are the enemies of themselves. But when I'm sitting amongst you today, I'm feeling so loved. I'm feeling that I am amongst my own sisters who are lifting up my hands and are telling me, cheering me on and saying, Lindy, move on, because we know that you're going to make it there. That is the joy of each one of us who has come here. It wouldn't have been possible, but you made it happen. As I close, kindly allow me to thank that company, the Dell, which has honored us with the computers that we now have. It may look like a simple token or a simple tool, but I know well that the communities where we come from, women in public service are the most lonely and the most isolated. Many are the times that we are locked in our communities, or at times even locked in our own houses, because we dare to challenge the status quo. You have given us a tool that even if we will be locked in our homes, even if we will be put into house arrests, you've given us a tool to be able to reach out to the world through social media. And that technology will surely make a difference in this course that we are putting together, to making sure that by 2050, we have 50% representation of women in leadership. I thank you all for being so kind, for putting this together and allowing us to really see the power of women working together. God bless you.